Get it over with.
Gotta make sure you can't all eat.
Including yourself.
Including yourself.
Hello.
Hello. I'd like to start with a quick story that appeared in a pamphlet in Hertfordshire, England in 1678. A local farmer was actually trying to get somebody to mow 3 acres of crop that he had, but he couldn't find anybody who wasn't charging an outrageous price. In a moment of anger, he said, "You know what? I'd rather pay the devil to mow this crop than pay what you guys are asking." The next morning he wakes up, he notices that his crops are mowed perfectly. This story, which is called the Mowing Devil story, is actually the first known documented evidence of a crop circle, which is the topic of my speech. Crop circles have always been something that's fascinated me. I've watched TV programs on it, I've read books, done internet research. What I'd like to do today is talk to you about the history of crop circles, explain to you exactly how they're made, give you a couple examples of some of the more famous ones, and then talk about 2 of the major theories about how they're made. Before I get into how they're made, again, I want to talk about the history of crop circles. A lot of people think that crop circles have only been around for 50 or 60 years, but in reality, the existence of crop circles actually dates back to about the 1500s. Sporadic evidence exists during that time, but one major story that came out was during 1880, and this is noted by Richard Taylor in his piece, How Crop Circles Evolved. It tells the story of John Sapron, a scientist living in England. One day, visiting neighbors, he noticed a giant formation of circles in a nearby crop. Didn't know what they were, essentially just chalked it up to a weather anomaly. As we moved into the 1900s, crop circles started to be more frequently witnessed. 60s and 70s, they exploded, about 1,500 a year since that time. Stephanie Watson, in her article, How Crop Circles Work, actually said that the phenomenon reached a fever pitch in 1980. A local farmer noticed 3 60-foot-long circles in his field. UFO researchers and local media all descended upon his farm, and it got worldwide attention for the first time ever. Over the past 20 years, it's actually become somewhat of a tourist attraction. People are actually paying money to come see these crop circles. Farmers charge a fee, people come in and check out the designs. Now you know a little bit about the history, now I want to talk to you about how exactly crop circles are made. Essentially, a crop circle is a flattening of a crop, usually something like wheat, barley, or rye, usually created in the course of one night. And in order for somebody to make a crude crop circle, all you really need is a stake in the ground, a piece of rope, and a board plank, piece of wood. Tie the rope to the stake, take the board out as far as you want to go, and just make it in a circle. Let me get to this part. Many cases, crop circles actually the stalks aren't broken, they're just bent, and they'll continue to grow as is. So now that you know how exactly they're made, what I'd like to do now is just show you a couple of the more famous examples of crop circles. This first one is called the Barbury Castle tetrahedron. It was located in Barbury Castle, England in 1991. Most people think the creation of this, you can see it's a very elaborate design. They believe these 3 outer circles most people think they actually explain the creation of the universe, with this being fire, water, and light, and they all point to the middle, which is called the Godhead. Another famous one is called the double pentagram pentagon. You can see another elaborate creation. This symbol actually dates back thousands of years. It's actually considered a healing and regeneration symbol used in ancient Egyptian and Pythagorean cultures. The third one I want to touch on is called the pi one. Now, if you see the circle here, it looks just like a normal crop circle, just a regular circle. But actually, as Daniel Bates notes in his article, Easy as Pie, which actually was in the Daily Mail newspaper, a North Carolina electrical engineer actually figured out what this crop circle meant. If you slice this crop circle into 10 equal parts, it actually comes to pi to the 10th decimal, which is one of the most fundamental symbols in all of mathematics. Given that it was created in one night and given the complexity of it, it's quite an astonishing achievement. So now that you know the history of crop circles, I've touched on how you make them and given you some of the famous examples. What I'd like to finish up with are the 2 major theories that exist regarding who or what creates crop circles. The first one is the man-made theory. This is the easiest explanation of why crop circles are made. Essentially, people think man just goes out after a night out and creates them with a group of his friends. Jim Marrs, in his book Alien Agenda, actually says that this theory was given a lot of credence in 1991 when 2 Englishmen by the name of Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley actually claimed that they created over 1,500 crop circles over a period of 20 years. Now, the second theory, which is the one that causes the most debate, is that crop circles were created by extraterrestrials. They believe that the crop circles are actually a form of a calling card, and that essentially nobody could create some of these elaborate designs over the course of a single night. The first crop circle I showed you, the tetrahedron, is 12,000 square feet. Didn't exist one night, it was there the next morning. A lot of people think that's a sign that it was created by an extraterrestrial life force. So that's essentially the speech, and what I was trying to get across is I showed you the history of crop circles, essentially how they're made, some of the more famous examples, and the two theories that exist regarding who makes them. It's obviously an issue that's going to continue to stir much debate, as people are always going to wonder who is making these things, and until there's a definitive answer, we're just never going to know. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them now.
What theory do you support? How they're made?
Honestly, given that there's usually 1,500 a year, and some of them are more crude models, like a Elvis crop circle or something of that nature, most of them are man-made. I wouldn't say that, I'd say 99% of them are man-made, but some of like the pie one, given that was made over the course of a single night, and given the complexity and precision of it mathematically, it does lend some credence to the thought that maybe there's other things involved other than man going out and making these.
Well, obviously, if somebody thinks that it's extra, something else had made that, I mean, they're going to take out some type of devices to try and detect something that was in the area. I mean, how do they? And it is kind of crazy to think that somebody's going to get hammered one night, fire up their lawnmower, and do that kind of artwork in the middle of the night. You know what I mean?
I mean, a lot of these crop circles, when the scientists go and research them afterwards, they actually bring equipment with them to test them, and a lot of the crop circles actually have high levels of electromagnetism in them, which isn't normal in those areas. Outside of the areas, there's no electric magnetism, but inside the crop circles themselves, there's high levels of it.
And is there a single place on the earth where you would find them more likely to find a crop circle?
You'll find about 75 to 80% of them in England, mostly due to England has a large, a lot of its countryside where there's large fields where it's easier to do it. But you'll also find them in India, Japan, Australia, Canada, the United States, but most of them are focused in England for some reason. Any other questions? No? Well, I thank you all for listening to my speech, and that is it.
Very good.